Roy, what is the latest?
Mike, the DPRK says it's the U.S. that's the aggressor here. Pyongyang says its actions have only been in response. Still, this new escalation is just the latest in a showdown between the two Pacific nations, a diplomatic standoff that could lead to deadly consequences. The Democratic People's Republic of Korea says the new sanctions approved over the weekend in a unanimous vote infringe on the country's sovereignty. The measure hits Pyongyang's coal, iron, and seafood trade, closing off nearly one-third of the DPRK's total exports. In response, the DPRK pledged to take, quote, righteous action, and blame the Korean Peninsula crisis on Washington. Pyongyang launched 2 long-range missile tests just last month. The DPRK foreign minister says his country plans to use nuclear weapons against one country.
Is our nuclear possession a threat to the world? Or is it just a threat to the United States? We want to make it clear that the worsening situation on the Korean Peninsula, as well as the other nuclear issues, were caused by the United States.
The DPRK spokesperson went on to say his country will never negotiate over its nuclear and ballistic missiles program. Still, Wang Yi, China's foreign minister, meeting with his DPRK counterpart on Sunday, urged him to abide by the new sanctions and, at the same time, asked Seoul and Washington not to take any provocations.
The international community has told the DPRK to abandon its development of nuclear warheads and to maintain the international proliferation regime. This is a security issue.
Meanwhile, the U.S. Secretary of State Rex Tillerson, who also met with Wang, said if Pyongyang stops testing missiles for an extended period of time, Washington might agree to talks. But he declined to define what length of time would trigger negotiations, instead challenging all parties who signed on to the sanctions over the weekend to focus on implementation.
I think the world is also expressing a view to China and Russia that we do have an expectation that you will do everything you possibly can to help North Korea understand the reality of the future as well and bring them to the negotiating table.
On Monday, the Pentagon told reporters that it is actively considering increasing the size of the ballistic missiles that Seoul can use to defend itself against Pyongyang. This after South Korean President Moon Jae-in asked the U.S. over the weekend to revise missile guidelines to double the size of the missile payloads. Mike?
Roy, in your report, we heard a lot of the folks attending the ASEAN meeting there in Manila. Did the American Secretary of State have a chance to run into the DPRK envoy?
No, and it appears that may have been intentional. Rex Tillerson, the top U.S. diplomat, skipped one event we know where he might have run into the DPRK foreign minister Ri Yong-ho, and then he left another event early to go meet with the Philippines President Rodrigo Duterte. No word if that was planned that way, but the White House did confirm that Tillerson spoke with U.S. President Donald Trump, who's on vacation this week. They spoke by phone, and Tillerson briefed Trump on what was happening there in Manila. Mike?
All right, Roy Rumberg in our newsroom. Thanks.